He smirked. Why don't you come back when you've got your sugar daddy's credit card? Jessica's jaw clenched. He had no idea he just humiliated the CEO of the company he worked for, but what happened next, he never saw coming. Let's start from the beginning. Jessica Monroe walked into the brightly lit Monroe Automotive dealership, her heels clicking against the polished marble floor. The smell of new leather and motor oil lingered in the air as salespeople in crisp suits hovered around the showroom, their eyes scanning for potential customers. Jessica kept her head down, trying to blend in. She wasn't here to buy a car, not exactly. She was the CEO of Monroe Automotive, a multi-million-dollar empire of luxury car dealerships across the country. But today, she wasn't a CEO. Today, she was just another customer. Jessica had been hearing whispers about customer mistreatment at this particular location, especially toward women and people of color. She didn't want to rely on reports from managers or filtered feedback. She needed to see it with her own eyes. So she had dressed down, dark jeans, a simple black blazer, and minimal makeup. She wanted to test how her employees really treated customers when they thought no one was watching. It didn't take long for her to get her answer. "Hey, sweetheart." A young blonde salesman approached her, his smile cocky and condescending. His name tag read Brad. "Looking for something affordable?" His eyes scanned her outfit with thinly veiled disdain. Jessica's brows lifted slightly. "Actually, I was interested in the Monroe X500. Brad let out a short, sharp laugh. "Yeah, that's a $90,000 car. Pretty sure that's out of your price range." He leaned in, lowering his voice. "Why don't I show you something more realistic for someone like you?" Jessica's jaw tensed. "And what exactly do you mean by someone like me?" Brad shrugged. "Come on, honey, you know what I mean. We get a lot of gold diggers around here looking to impress their sugar daddies." Jessica's heart slammed against her chest. Heat rushed to her face, but she kept her composure. "Actually, I'm more than capable of buying that car myself." Brad's smile widened. "Uh-huh. Tell you what, come back when you've got your sugar daddy's credit card." Jessica's hands curled into fists at her sides. She forced herself to breathe evenly as Brad turned toward another customer, a white man in a tailored suit. Brad's smile changed immediately, his posture becoming more attentive and respectful. Jessica stood frozen, humiliated and furious. He had no idea who he was talking to, no idea he had just insulted the woman who signed his paycheck. Her stomach twisted with rage as Brad laughed, completely unaware of the storm he had just unleashed. He was about to find out exactly who Jessica Monroe was. Jessica stepped outside the dealership, the bright sunlight stinging her eyes as she fought to steady her breathing. Her heart was still racing, her hands trembling from the humiliation and rage boiling inside her. She sat down on a bench near the parking lot, staring at the row of gleaming luxury cars in front of her. She had worked her entire life to build Monroe Automotive from the ground up. Jessica had faced discrimination, sexism, and endless obstacles as a woman, and a black woman at that, in the male-dominated automotive industry. But she had overcome all of it. She had proven herself, not just through her success, but by building a company known for its integrity and customer service. That's why this moment cut so deep. She wasn't angry just because Brad had disrespected her. She was angry because he had exposed a deeper, uglier problem within her company, the very culture she had fought so hard to avoid. How many other women had walked into this dealership and been dismissed, humiliated, and treated like they didn't belong? How many potential customers had walked out the door feeling worthless and disrespected? Her phone buzzed in her hand, pulling her from her thoughts. It was her assistant, Rachel. Jessica hesitated before answering. "Hey, how's the visit going?" Rachel's bright tone quickly faded when Jessica didn't answer right away. Jessica's voice was tight. "I just got humiliated by one of my own salespeople." "What?" Rachel's tone sharpened. "Who?" Brad, Jessica said through clenched teeth. Tall, blonde, cocky. He told me to come back when I had my sugar daddy's credit card. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. You're kidding. I wish I were. Jessica sighed, running a hand over her face. The worst part is, it's not just about me. If he treated me like this, how many other women, how many other black women, has he treated like this? Rachel's voice hardened. Do you want me to handle it? Jessica's jaw tightened. No, I'll handle it myself. Jessica stared at the dealership's glass doors, her reflection distorted by the glare of the sun. She had built this company with her own blood, sweat, and tears, and now one of her own employees had poisoned it with his arrogance and prejudice. A cool breeze brushed against her face, but it did nothing to calm the storm brewing inside her. Jessica wasn't going to let this slide. Brad had underestimated her, and that was his first mistake. She stood up, smoothing her blazer and adjusting her sunglasses. Her mind was already working, already planning. Tomorrow, Brad and the rest of the dealership were going to find out exactly who Jessica Monroe was, and exactly what happened when you disrespected the boss. The next morning, Jessica arrived at the dealership, not as a customer, but as the CEO. She wore a sleek black power suit and heels that clicked sharply against the marble floor. Her assistant and head of HR walked behind her. Brad was standing near the showroom, laughing with another salesperson. His smile vanished when he saw Jessica approaching. Good morning, everyone, Jessica said, her voice cool and crisp. I'd like to introduce myself properly. I'm Jessica Monroe, the CEO of Monroe Automotive. Brad's face went pale. His mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. Jessica turned to the other employees, smiling. I've heard that this dealership prides itself on excellent customer service. So imagine my surprise when I was treated with disrespect and condescension yesterday. Brad shifted nervously. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Jessica held up her hand. No, there hasn't. I was dismissed and insulted because of how I looked. That's unacceptable, and it ends today. Brad's face was crimson now. The other employees stared, some of them smirking. Jessica took a step toward Brad. You have two choices, she said. You can walk out of here now and never work in sales again, or you can stay and undergo 6 months of mandatory sensitivity and customer service training. If you pass, you keep your job. If you fail, you're out. Brad swallowed hard. I'll stay. Good. Jessica smiled. But be warned. The next time you make a customer feel less than valued, you won't get another chance. Brad's head lowered in shame as Jessica turned to the other employees. Let this be a reminder. Every customer matters. Every person matters. From now on, this dealership will operate with respect and integrity, or you won't work here. Jessica walked toward the exit, the employees parting to let her pass. Rachel followed, beaming. That was incredible, Rachel whispered. Jessica smiled. No one will ever feel like I did yesterday. Not on my watch. Outside, Jessica climbed into her car, the Monroe X500. She smiled as the engine purred to life. Justice had been served.